Welcome to the next episode of Stories from the Field. My name is Saqib Ghani.
And I'm Rodrigo Gazanil. Nice to have our second guest of the program today. It's an honor to have you with us here, Colin. Nice to meet you.
Well, nice to spend some time with you, Gaza and Saqib. Yes, my name is Colin Lake, as you mentioned briefly there, and I am with Developing the Next Leaders.
Colin, thanks for doing this and coming on our episode. You have been the veteran in the financial industry and are now developing the next leaders. Also have been training for the folks for the Sparton races. A lot of experience out there. Tell us something about you, Colin.
So I start in the financial services industry right out of college. That's 1996, late 1995, early 1996. And I started with Hartford, one of the oldest financial services and insurance companies in the United States, and was with them for about 13 years and moved from them over to Guardian, which is also an insurance company and a financial services company based in New York. And I was with them for about 8.5 years. And then about 4 years ago, I started a business called Developing the Next Leaders. It's a consulting and coaching business, which is the for-profit piece of it. And there's also a charity component of the business as well. And so the both charity and the consulting and coaching business coach and consult back into the financial services industry. So 25 years, out in the field working with insurance agents, financial advisors, people selling into the industry, and almost every walk of life in the insurance and financial services industry. I've spent some time with them, all the way up to the CEOs, all the way down to the people who are, maybe just starting and doing some internships. I've spent time with all of them. Yeah, and maybe one other thought, Saqib and guys, if I can. So, Developing the Next Leaders was started back in 2015, prior to me stepping away from the industry, and it was started as a charity. And so what I was noticing is there's lots of people, lots of financial services companies and insurance companies trying to hire ex-military, but what they don't do is a good enough job of training them. So these ex-military don't get enough training, and maybe they don't have as much of a chance to succeed as they would have if they got really good training. So Developing the Next Leaders started, and hence the name Developing the Next Leaders, started with this concept of helping people who are exiting the military make a successful entrance into the financial services industry, so that once they're there, they start from a higher platform, meaning they've been trained better and they understand the industry, and they can in fact be the next leaders of the financial services industry.
So that's a fantastic mission, and I'm really happy to hear how your focus have been enabled, the next leaders literally. So Colin, one of the questions we wanted to ask you, and a way to start the conversation, is through your experience, can you describe a little about how technology has enabled you to be a better professional, smarter, or even more productive in the end? Because one of the themes that Saqib and I deal with day to day is this big theme that we call the digital transformation. But there's no better way to hear that from a practitioner.
Well, thanks for that question, because the financial services industry, and I'd say even more specifically the insurance industry, is slower to adapt these new technologies. And any company or any position I've been a part of, I've been quick to adapt the technology and quick to push in the technology, as long as we can keep up with the protection of clients' personal data, and as long as we can keep up with all of the cybersecurity that's such a big risk in so many industries, but specifically the financial services industry. And then finally, like, if the tech can do all the things that it's supposed to do, which is bring in these efficiencies while protecting, it really tends to be a piece of software or a tool that our industry will in fact grab onto and do as much as they can with it. So
Yeah,
go ahead, Skip.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue to the other question with cybersecurity coming in now. COVID-19 disrupted everything from last 6 months, every industry to be more precise, right? So be it financial, be it insurance. And the disruption it has caused the way we do things. What is your take on, how the industry has to adapt to doing new things, right? So take insurance the way you used to meet the clients, take financials, the branch of the future, for example, touchless branches now, or buying bonds or anything else for that matter. How do you think everything else is going to be changing for the next few years? Cybersecurity, you already touched one of them, but there are other pieces to it. Give me your thoughts on that, Colin.
All right, so the financial services industry is highly regulated. And as such, many of the decisions that are made, in particular in this virtual world that we're living in, have to be made with these regulations in mind, right? So we live in this, so we live in this virtual world, right? We're all living in this virtual world. The financial services and insurance industries are these highly regulated industries. So those two things don't marry too well, because maybe the information floating in the cloud somewhere can potentially be at risk. And so that intersection is an interesting one for these industries to figure out and to work through it. And so the other tools that so many industries have used successful over the last, say, 6 months that we've been in COVID, social media, that the industry has been really slow to adapt there, both insurance and financial services, and then video conferencing, what we're doing, with all of our things today. They've been quicker to adapt that, but they're very, very cautious on how they use it. And then video, in terms of getting your message out, video voicemail, which is a popular tool in many other industries. The financial services industry is really apprehensive, and the insurance industry doesn't touch it at all. So there's so many of these other tools that, because of these high regulations, our industry has been slow to adopt them. And perhaps, if they can get these cybersecurity risks minimized, which AI plays a big role in, then this industry is moving in at the pace that it wants to.
Yeah, that's a great commentary. I can imagine, it's such a mission critical information. It's so sensitive, it's so regulated, but still there is the desire, right, to leverage all this information from this digital world that we're living in to the benefit of the consumer and also to the benefit of the business. So I have one question, Colin. If you had a magic wand and you could imagine, the perfect service you would have it in your hand as a financial consultant, right? To give that entire view of your customer base and each customer individually, right? Imagine that all the barriers that you described of security, they have been addressed, right? How would you see technology enabling you, helping you, or the other hand around, how would you see technology occupying some niches and roles in your segment?
I would love a magic wand, Gaza. Yeah, we're talking about some good stuff right here. So the answer would be, it would be this tool that perfected the AI component of managing big data. And so the way you asked that question was specifically to me as a consultant in the industry. So what I would like is the AI to take all of the information about the potential clients that we have as a firm and get me all of their tendencies, all of the things that they like to do and don't like to do. Let big data manage all of those things for me, and then help me provide the best messaging and the best resources that solve for their specific needs. Now, how that relates to like the rest of the world, the rest of the insurance and financial services world, is that's what they're after. Like, they want to understand their clients and prospects better, and they're using AI to do that, and then allowing big data to manage all of that stuff behind there. And so they're saying, okay, can we do this stuff at a fast enough and accurate enough rate without betraying any of these cybersecurity risks, and keeping within the regulations? Like that's what the industry is trying to figure out. And so like that not only applies to me specifically, but the broader industries of financial services and insurance.
Colin, that is where we wanted to head towards, right? You just gave a blend example of a blend using technology to enhance the business, right? And that's where the today's CIO and CTOs have the challenge with. I have a disruption through the fintechs, right, within the insurance industry or financial industry, and every CIO and CTO have to think out of the box. Imagine you have to basically provide your 2 cents on what a CIO or a CTO would be thinking for next 5 years. How can they transform in a way where the challenges they see from the fintechs or the challenges they see today from the clients, they can basically be ahead of the curve there. So that's where I want your knowledge and experience. What do you think would come out from this conversation when a CIO or a CTO listens to it?
Yes. So they often, yeah, they often battle, depends on which way you're saying the CIO. Like if it's a chief information officer and a CTO, they tend to be, the same person in some firms, depending on the size of them.
Yeah.
CIOs, meaning chief investment officer and chief technology officer, they battle a lot because the chief investment officer always wants to spend less money and the CTO always wants to spend more money on these things. But anyway, but I understand that the point of the question is like the next 5 years, what they're trying to figure out. And I'm going to take a half a step back to give as full an answer as I can. So we live in a world of historically low interest rates. And really low interest rates are a challenge for the financial services industry. And so when you have low interest rates, that means you can't make as much money on those vehicles or on those tools. So that means the financial services companies and the insurance companies are potentially going to be strapped financially for the next 5 years as we live in this world of really low interest rates. Okay, there's the half a step back. Now back to the question, Sikib, is so now you need that CTO or that chief information officer to take these AI tools and take these big data tools and help them understand, how do we deal with the excessive cost of high regulation? How do we deal with that? How do we get ourselves to understand our clients better than everyone else? And then how do we understand our clients and prospects better than everyone else? And then how do we provide this technological platform that people feel engaged as a client of yours? You're working in, you are a client of the insurance company, or you are a client of the financial services company. You want to feel like you are engaged in that company. And so like, can the technology, can like the AI say, I know you as our client, I feel you as our client, we can serve you really well as a client without putting an actual person on there who's really expensive. So I talked a bit there, but I want to make sure that point's clear. Like, can the AI tool understand the prospect and client well enough to communicate with them so that they feel like they're getting a personalized touch that only at this point people feel like a person themselves could do?
That's the divide we're living in, Colin. And so first, your perspective of the industry is most valuable, right? And it helps us close the loop. We both are technologists, but we got to understand the context where the business is so we can bring the right solutions, right? You know very well, and you described very well the potential benefits of big data and AI, right? And that's also an element that we see in the industry more and over, that the buyers, the decision makers for the business are more and more aware, right, of the potential of the digital world for them. They are also aware of the risks, as you talked about, managing information. So, your perspective for us was a great validation of the entire scenario across the industry. Really, really useful to help us guide future conversations across the industry. right? Also understanding the scenario, what the low interest represents for the financial and the insurance world. We want to bring the answers to you. That's my message as a technologist. We want to bring you first an AI that can empower you before it can, eliminate the human touch, right? AI are great into things that robotic automation can do, right? But the fact that we are here collaborating and talking and learning and sharing means that there's still human value, and there's going to be a moment where we'll start collaborating. But really, really valuable insights that I have here. Sakib, any other comment you have about this conversation?
No, I know, Colin, you're training for Spartan, I should say virtual Spartan. When are you training Gaza and myself?
Yes, I would love to. Maybe we can do, Sakib, I know we live closer to one another. Gaza, you're on the other side of the country, but we live in this wonderful virtual world where we can all get on one of these things and get after something together and have a small workout or training session, just like 4 or 5 hours straight. We need to work out just to make sure we're prepared for our next race together.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lastly, Colin, what's the greatest lesson for anybody, on the year 2020 who is listening? For sure, there are a lot of lessons, but precisely a message for you on 2020 lessons.
Oh man. So, most times when people get asked questions like that, they say, geez, it's really, really hard for me to do because I've learned so much, whatever. I'm going to tell you the exact opposite. That is a really easy one for me to answer. It is ask questions that you want to know the answer to, because you'll listen a whole heck of a lot better to the person you asked them to. And so how does that translate to what we're doing right now? Like you all have been on these virtual calls where you ask someone a question and then there's like 6 people talking at the same time, or you're both talking at the same time and no one can hear each other. And it's because people ask questions, they're not really interested in the answer. They're interested in telling you the answer to the question. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if we'd all get better at asking questions and specifically asking questions that you're interested in the other person answering, the communication gap in this world that we're living in would minimize and we'd all get a lot more done.
No, that's a great thought. And I'm pretty sure that comes from your book of knowledge, Developing the Next Leaders. Thank you very much, Colin. Appreciate the time. Gaza, some last words from you or Colin, anything?
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation and to say that I've been practicing to your advice, and that's what we are doing here. We are really interested in having this channel and in maintaining the conversation, learning a lot. Thank you very much, Colin.
Yeah, I'll take your 2 thank yous and put them right back to you. I appreciate you giving me the platform and asking these questions and looking to solve these issues for our industries going forward. The work you're doing is literally boundless in its impact.
Thank you.